Hey, welcome to Storytime with CJ Lehigh. When last we left our hero in the story All the Marbles, our hero had been transported to another time, maybe the same place, but another time by means of a magical marble that he found on the playground. And something has just crashed into him and the marble has gone spinning off into space. We don't know where. So let's find out together, shall we? It was a girl, but no girl I had seen before. She had long red hair and ringlets around her head, and she was wearing a pink dress with a bright red sash or something at the waist. The dress was lacy and frilly, the kind I'd never seen except in the movies, but it was also torn and streaked with dirt. "Hey," I said, "why did you hit me?" She screamed. That really wasn't what I was expecting. She rolled over and sat up, her face scrunched and dirty and tear-stained, and saw me, and if possible got even more scared. She started crab-crawling backwards, scooting on her bum away from me. "Stay back," she said. "Don't come any closer." At least, I think that's what she said, because her accent was different. Stay was more like stay, and don't sounded like don't. I suddenly realized I didn't have time to figure out what her deal was because I was lying in a field with a bloody lip and I was supposed to be in a schoolyard coming back into class after lunch. I had to find that marble. I stood up and started scanning the ground. "You're not one of them," she said, wonder in her voice. "One of who?" I said, hoping the sunlight would glint off the glassy and show me where it was, but the grass was long and thick and I began to feel the first hint of worry. I couldn't see it, or anywhere it might be. Now she crawled forward and grabbed my pant leg, looking around wildly. "You've got to get down," she said. "Down!" "I'm looking for something," I said. "I have to find my marble." "Your marble? You've lost your marbles indeed. You've got to get down," she said, and tackled me. "What is wrong with you?" I said, kicking out to get my legs loose. She was like a wild thing, grabbing and wrestling, and all at once she stopped and jerked her head up like she heard something. I scrabbled away from the crazy girl and kept digging through the grass, hoping for a miracle, but now that she was quiet, I heard something. There was a kind of a whoop far off over one of the hills and a sort of thudding like thunder a long way away, except I could almost feel it in the ground. Then I looked around and saw something else that had me worried. Over on one of the hills there was a tall plume of thick black smoke. Something big was burning over there. "I'm not staying here. If you want to get killed, that's your business." She rolled to all fours and started scooting away, keeping low like she was trying not to be seen. I thought for a quick moment about what to do, and then I heard something that decided it for me in a hurry. I heard a crack and an echo. I've been out shooting with my dad often enough to know a gunshot when I hear one, and this was a big, heavy gun. The girl was 20 yards from me and moving away fast, and all of a sudden I thought it might be better to scram and come back for that marble later. So I ran after her, myself crouching lower and lower to match her. There was a whiff of smoke in the air, not a surprise, and now there were more gunshots, and the rumble separated itself into horses' hooves. A little way ahead of me, she reached some low bushes and threw herself behind them flat on the ground. I wasn't quite that desperate. It didn't seem real, you know. I was just at recess, and now all this. But I hustled over to the bushes and crouched behind them, just an arm's length from her. She lay under the bush, scooting as close to the trunk as she could, eyes fixed behind us back up the hill. I crouched behind the cover, letting my head follow her gaze, and saw a hat moving fast along the line of the hill. Someone was riding along just below the ridge. I ducked my head. "Who are those guys?" I said in a low whisper. She didn't say anything, just kept glaring up at the rise and trying to bury herself in the dirt. I've never seen anyone so terrified. I realized that her dress had once been quite fancy, and that the frilly thing underneath it, I could see the fringe of it poking out under her dress, was very white, so that maybe it had been fancy until this morning. Her black shoes had shiny gold buckles on them, but the shoes were caked in mud as if she'd been running, maybe through a creek. Which I thought was probably so, since there was a creek right here, maybe 20 yards away. "What happened?" I whispered. She shot me a furious glance and put her finger to her lips, which was silly because no way could anyone have heard me unless he was in the bush. I looked back for the hat, but it was gone. Whoever was out there had decided not to come this way. "Look, I need to know what's going on here." "What's going on here? Who are you? What are you doing on our farm? What kind of clothes are those?" She looked me up and down. I began to see that my normal school clothes were as odd to her as hers were to me. My name's Paul. I go to Robert E. Lee Elementary School. I was just at lunch recess and then I lost my marble when you ran into me. Look, even I could hear how impossible that sounded. There wasn't anything here but fields and a creek and some guys someplace close riding horses and shooting guns. And this girl, scared out of her mind. She spat on my shoes. Robert E. Lee, the traitor! What are you talking about? Her face grew red and she spat the words at me. Who do you think those men are that burned me house and shot? Oh! And she buried her head in her hands and her shoulders shook. She kept enough sense not to make a sound, though. A quick glance up the hill and there was still nobody there. Look, I don't understand any of this, I said. I just need to find my marble and go back home. You go out there, she said, and you're never going back home or anywhere else. And next time, we will find out what happens if the men riding along the hill come down into the valley, and if the girl and the boy are able to find the marble and get our hero back where he belongs. Maybe so, and maybe not.